a poem about sex. Now that I've got your attention, let me say that this poem thinks it's about sex, but it's really about itself. It's a poem gazing in the mirror to find out who it is. It sits here on the page pretending it just happens to be there. Though of course, you know, I got all fixed up for you. Tried on one rhythm, then changed into another. It's following you out of the corner of its lines. It wants you to pick it up and take it home, where this poem will touch you the way you always wanted to be touched, in a place you've never been touched before. It seeks intimacy above all, passion, romance, obsession, to be on your mind later when you are alone. That should be obvious now. So dream yourself inside it. Pretend you know what the poet meant. Seduce his flirt of a poem. Make it take off all its words for you. And only then will it whisper to you in the dark of the dying light of a winter afternoon, of the way the flesh curves at the small of her back, of the friends he had who died too young, of the best friend who broke his heart, of that kiss from Harriet Moskowitz decades ago when he ended it on some street corner on Long Island before she turned and walked away sobbing, how the dampness clung to his lips. Let me confess right now that there was a time I saw sex as little more than a reaching out into the void and taking. But I've learned it's not a stroke or a thrust or anything about technique, but the closing of a circle that leads back to you, to itself, to the thing you tried to take, to the thing you name in the dark, to the thing that poems are. So do it with this poem. It's the same as you. It wants to be taken. It wants to become yours. The night the fight broke out, it got nasty, as an argument can over something neither of you care much about. We're outside sipping coffee on a chilly night, and something was said or not said, or said the wrong way, and soon we're yelling about God knows what. You raised your coffee as if to hurl it, then dumped it on the driveway in a show of disgust. Something hot and good and thoroughly enjoyed, reduced in a flash to a dark, steaming stain. The smoke that rose from it sulked in anger, and all its pleasure was lost forever. In the morning, after a night when reconciliation stayed one step ahead of whatever words we could find, I slipped outside to get some air and found the coffee on the driveway had frozen into the shape of a flower, tendrils twisted and broken, even the stem slit by rage. The fight brought out too much that stayed too long. Winter came cold and hard. The coffee on the driveway thawed and started to run, then froze again, a different flower by day, a different stone by evening, as the splotch of brown turned hard, then soft, then hard again. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, we both wake up and make love, wildly, madly, on the edge of violence, and not speak a word, as if desire had turned against itself and wanted to destroy us, as we lay there, legs entwined in sweat and grief. Sex, we learned, burns off the anger, but leaves the pain. Months later, after finally a night of untroubled dreams, the argument all but forgotten, I looked out the bedroom window and didn't see the stain, but knew it wasn't gone, that now it was a part of us. Like all our sorrows and all we grieve, we never lose our losses. They just become an ache, a wound, a scar, a broken part of who we are. That was a potential title for the collection, The Broken Parts of Who We Are. It's nice, but and I like this, one of my favorite poems, but it sounds a little like the title of a poetry book. You know what I mean? Reading people while my wife has minor surgery. which was written while I was reading People magazine, and my wife was having a sick. That's one of my favorite opening lines. Since I'm among friends, I'll be indulgent and say that. The first line is, "Life is a waiting room with nothing good to read." Maybe I should stop now. Life is a waiting room with nothing good to read. That's clear to me now as I sit on this threadbare couch and think of life and love and the dreams I still dream, and how the coffee here is terrible. Styrofoam cups, the magazine's worse, People, Golf Week, Soap Opera Digest. My wife is unconscious. I imagine her drug-fueled dreams, but I've never been very good at that, figuring out her dreams in all our years together. Around me, the room is alive with language, Spanish and French and another I can't name, families on edge, nervous, waiting for the doctor to appear. It's like getting on a plane. You're not afraid, but can't help but think how every breath we take is a game of chance. An argument breaks out in the language I can't name, a language they think in, dream in, love in. I see my life as a language I can't speak, how I move through it all as in those dreams where you speak a foreign language and don't know what you're saying, but are understood by all. And here, quite alone, I slide all the way in to perform silent surgery on an ailing soul. Have I ever loved anyone? Loved them well? What if I lose her? What if I'm alone? What is it I search for that's forever out of reach? Admit it at last, you have totally wasted your life. I look up to see the doctor coming in. This time it's for me. And he says it all went very, very well. So the next section is called Fathers and Other Strangers. And I've written about a dozen poems about my father, not a single one about my mother. And I leave that for all the psychiatrists and psychoanalysts and psychotherapists and other health professionals in the room to explain why.
Why?
You're answering a question with a question, is that? And the epigraph is, "Carry me along, Tatty, like you done through the toy fair," which is on the last page of Finnegan's Wake, which I knew I could borrow without worrying about it because no one's ever gotten to the last page. And the first poem in here is the title poem, A Note of Consolation for Lucia Joyce. As Jessica mentioned, that James Joyce had two children, his daughter, Lucia, who showed so much promise. She studied dance with Isadora Duncan. Yeah. Something blank, something zoned out. Isadora Duncan. She was engaged or just had a flirtation with Beckett, which always sounds like the first line of a joke,
Yeah.
about the woman. She's waiting at the altar, something like that, But she presented as schizophrenic. Joyce had his friend, Carl Jung, analyze her. The great line, I'm not going to go into that, but it's such a great line, because we talk so much about different madness and genius and all of that. And Carl Jung said that they both were in the same river, right? But James swam in it and Lucia drowned in it, right? Wow. Some version, And I thought that, so I have a poem I'm not going to read about Hart Crane. And when I was young, we all glamorized, that he wrote beautifully about the water. And then at 33, at the same age as Jesus, he leaped in, committed suicide, took his own life. And with the little maturity, I look back and I said, there's really nothing glamorous about this. Probably clinical depression, and But I thought that was a good way to put it. So this was inspired by a photo of her dancing as a dancer. A note of consolation for Lucia Joyce. Your eyes are dizzy as you poise for the dance, hands by your side, obsessed with attention, as if waiting for the voice of your father. His maddening tenor, the pitch of epiphany, he wasn't as perfect as you. There was fire in his books, and your mind flared with the clarity of Bloomsday, the visions of the wake. He wasn't as perfect as you. He dissected your instincts with invisible knives. You colored in each cutting edge and whispered to him in sweet Italian at each asylum door, The Germans are coming. Oh, Father, the Germans are coming. He wasn't as perfect as you. You ran from your demons as he ran from his, with drugs and with dreams and with Daedalus dancing, in rooms with barred windows and locks on the doors. Your father has the key, but he won't let you use it. He won't let you in to the stream of consciousness raging within. He's so all or nothing, so yes, I said yes, that you know in your heart means no, I said no. He wasn't as perfect as you. We all go mad when we know our Father.
Could you talk a little bit about Lucia and Joyce and sort of the competition, the compare and contrast, and what that meant for you in titling your book?
There was something when I saw that photo of Lucia, which was probably decades ago, that sort of resonated because she didn't know even the state she was in. You know, and James Joyce, like here, if you're a writer, that generation, you know, that century, he's probably the most famous writer in the world at that time. And he's being just eaten alive by something he just can't, all his skill, you know, with words can't really do anything about it.